Big Three.
If you would like to watch the show today, we got two ways for you to do so. One of them is on X at Fletch and Sammy. You can find us there on X, and then on YouTube at San Diego Sports 760. You can find us there as well. And go ahead and give us a subscription on the YouTube because that stays live all day long from 12 to 6. John and Jim take it over right after we get off the air. We do have a pair of Billy Currington tickets to give away today for his Saturday, July 19th show out at Gallagher Square at Petco Park. It's a Saturday show at Gallagher Square. For tickets and info, go to Ticketmaster.com. Just keep on listening for your chance to win. So, kind of fun. Earlier today, it was announced that Major League Baseball is going to be using ABS, the automatic balls and strikes system, during the All-Star game in Atlanta this year. A lot of people online are saying it's about time. Why haven't we tried this out sooner, like in Major League Baseball play this year? That's kind of the side I'm on. Look, it was a little clunky in spring training this year when they first were trying it out, but guys got the hang of it. And yeah, you're probably going to have a couple of games decided in the regular season if this does get put into place permanently based on something happening at the plate. Someone taps their helmet too late and a ball goes right by them. There's something bad will happen from it, but I think the ultimate outcome is good. Because how many situations like last night do we need to see moving forward where Mike Schilt gets tossed from the game last night for the third or fourth time this season? It feels like it's been a high rate for Schilt before we really make a change. And we've been asking for automatic balls and strikes for decades now. It feels like it's coming. So Major League Baseball is taking a big step forward here, using it during the All-Star game in Atlanta. Nikola Jokic, after this morning, has informed the Nuggets that he is not going to be signing a contract extension with the Nuggets this summer. Could there be some trouble in paradise? Well, we watched it, right? During the postseason this year, the Nuggets were Nikola Jokic working his ass off and tired, lumbering up the court, and pretty much no one else on his team. So is there a chance that one of the brightest stars in the National Basketball Association and Nikola Jokic could be on the move somewhere as early as this offseason? We'll see. Jokic, when you talk about back-to-back MVPs in the regular season, is probably the best that the NBA has to offer these days, regardless of how boring he is to watch.
Break is here. Ready to go back to the office and not.
Of course, Sammy's not here and I'm running the board. So stuff like that's going to happen all show long. But the thing is, like Jokic, if he does go on the move, he could have a huge impact somewhere, depending on whether he goes east or stays in the west. Chet Holmgren, a recent NBA champion, Chet Holmgren, has signed a 5-year, $250 million deal. Combined now, OKC is spending $535 between SGA and Chet Holmgren. Do the Oklahoma City Thunder have enough to make them a dynasty? To be determined, right? The West is going to be tricky for the next few years when you think about what the Spurs have done, when you think about what the Lakers are doing with Jokic coming over and now DeAndre Ayton coming over, both of them saying it's like playing in a video game with the two of them being on the court at the same time. And oh, by the way, LeBron James is still there. So the West is tricky, but OKC does have this young group of players that they are now shelling out lots and lots of money to. We'll see if they're going to have what it takes to move on over the next few years and keep this dynasty thing going. All right, that's the big three for today. If you want to text the show, you can, 70470. Start your message with team. Would love some interaction on the show today because who knows when the hell we're going to get Sammy's mic figured out. He is somewhere today, and he was connected fine before the show and haven't heard from him since. But we're going to keep this thing rolling. Today, also, July 9th of 2004, so 21 years ago, was the release of Anchorman. One of the greatest comedy movies of all time. Obviously, a movie that is so close, near and dear to our hearts here in San Diego. Anchorman was released 21 years ago today. So for the text line today, please do fill it up with your favorite Anchorman moments, your favorite Anchorman quotes, and all that good stuff from one of the movies that definitely shaped my childhood, and I'm sure it shaped a lot of yours as well. Anchorman turns 21 years old today. Doesn't really feel like it was that long, does it? But between the Sex Panther, between Anchorman, not Anchor Lady, between Milk was a bad choice, as the 949 just texts in, Anchorman is a classic here in San Diego, and the fact that it turns 21 today is a pretty cool thing. All right, these Padres, speaking of San Diego, it's kind of hard to make of this team, but last night it's another 1-0 win. If you missed the beginning of the show, it's a 1-0 win off the backs of two excellent defensive plays out in the outfield, one by Jackson Merrill, one by Fernando Tatis Jr., and then an unlikely hero at the plate, a guy who his on base percentage doesn't quite make sense this year in Luis Arraez because he's putting the ball in play as much as he always has, but they're just making better defensive plays on it, or he's hitting it where they are instead of where they ain't. But Luis Arraez comes through and figures out the one place they definitely weren't was over the outfield wall. And Luis Arraez gets the win for the Padres last night. That's all they needed in a 1-0 win. They just needed one solo home run, which you take the win and you're happy about it. But as you kind of look around, like, do we all feel that comfortable with this Padres team? Do you feel like there needs to be some more additions to this offense in particular? And I do think the answer is yes. We're going to chat with Danny Vietti coming up at 12:30 today. I don't know what options the Padres are necessarily going to have. And it's easy for us as fans to sit back and say, oh, they need a left fielder. Oh, they need more hitting from catching position. Of course, that's what they need. But do they even have the pieces to move to make something like that happen in what we expect to be an extremely competitive trade deadline with multiple teams and everybody across Major League Baseball feeling like, for the most part, they're all still competitive. They're all still in the playoff race. So we'll see what the Padres end up doing at the trade deadline. But right now, it's still so much is up in the air that it's kind of hard to forecast. All right, we're going to take our first break of the day. Like I said, we got Billy Currington tickets coming up. Like I said, who knows when Sammy Long is going to be a part of this show today. It was working fine before we got on air, and then as soon as we got on air, it somehow disappeared. But Danny Vietti coming up at 12:30. Mac Angle coming up at 1:30. Plenty to get to on a Wednesday here in San Diego on literally the birthday of one of the greatest San Diego movies ever, Anchorman, which got released in theaters July 9th, 2004. And we're just going to keep this thing rolling on a Wednesday. San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, it's San Diego Sports 760. Ben Fletcher and Sammy Long with you till 2 o'clock today. John and Jim will take over then. Sammy, it is the moment of truth here. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me, Fletch?
Oh, my God, he's back.
We're back.
He's so back.
How we doing, San Diego, today? I was you handled that very well, Fletch, the first segment.
Thank you.
We had some technical difficulties. I'm up at the LA offices, had some family in town, so I had to come up here, but it's great to be on with everybody.
So how'd you screw it up?
I was not hitting the on the left side, so it was operator air. So I was like, so for everyone, we're like live. Ben and I are talking. We're all set. I'm like, we're good to go. And then the Doug, one of the guys whose engineers up here, is like, you didn't hit on. I'm like, that's embarrassing.
Yeah, the on button next time would be a good choice. All right, I was telling everybody today is the anniversary of Anchorman coming out in theaters, and 949 texting in, I'm a glass box of emotions. And that's how I roll after punting a dog, which was a famous Jack Black moment in the movie Anchorman.
Something you love.
Yeah, every time. But Anchorman, obviously, such a classic, and we'll keep those rolling all day long. Sammy, the other thing I noticed, and I'll get your thoughts on the Padres in a second here, but I now have access to all of your drops because I'm running the board today. So we're just going to have some fun.
We got some good, juicy stuff. I almost spilled
my yak on this $200 suit.
I don't even know what some of these are, but this is fun. You have so many.
I'll drop that.
This is good stuff. Why don't you use any of those?
I had to get in early one day, and I spent like 3 hours recording drops.
Why don't you use any of them?
Yo, let's get out of here. Word to your mother.
I feel like we should be using these more.
I know, I forgot about some. I'm actually feel bad I haven't used these. This is a little Friday from the interview.
These are good things, man. We should probably be using them more. I'm telling you.
Sounds good. That's what we're going to lock in on,
all right.
Tomorrow.
Sammy, we didn't get your thoughts on what happened last night in the Padres game, but it was a 1-0 win. The 5th time this year that the Padres have won by that score. Kind of wild because it's like you feel good about getting the W, but I don't necessarily feel good about how it happened.
Yeah, it was a weird game watching it. It was, I mean, Merrill Kelly looked like the second coming of Sandy Koufax, and Nick Pivetta did too. So it was a fun kind of, if you're into old school baseball where it's not a lot of runs, it was excellent pitching. Now you got the win. That's all you asked for. So they did a good job yesterday. And Suarez had the craziest 9th inning, I think, for a guy who got 3 outs and didn't let anyone on base. He went to a 3-2 count in all 3 batters, and it felt like you're like, oh no, is there going to be momentum here? But you got to give credit to Suarez for closing it out. Yeah, the bats are certainly frustrating. You're kind of looking at this going, I mean, why can they not wake up, especially against a team? Let's say Merrill Kelly's fantastic. We know what he is as a pitcher. The Diamondbacks bullpen's terrible. And that's kind of been established, and it's kind of frustrating that they can't get to them. But, you know, and then at the same time, it's you're 1-1. The next 2 games are very important because you could have the ability to kind of knock the Diamondbacks out of the race if you were to win both games, and vice versa. So interesting game. Don't know. I would give it a B performance because you won and the pitching was excellent, but the bats certainly left a lot to be desired.
It doesn't really tell you much about what this team actually needs. Like, obviously this team needs hitting. Who knows what they're actually going to be able to get at the trade deadline. But I feel like they keep in this like idle position where AJ Preller doesn't really know what to do at the trade deadline. And I don't know what I would do if I were him, because honestly, you can't sell because you know that the fan base is showing up for you and they're showing up for the guys who are on the field. And this team is good enough, you feel like, to do something this year. But can you really buy with a lack of prospects, with obviously your spending needing to go down over the next few years to continue to go down like it has been? The Padres are in a tricky spot here. I do not envy being in AJ Preller's office right now, and I truthfully do not know what they're going to do.
And it was interesting hearing, we had Kevin Acee on yesterday, and we asked him about, hey, like, what's the vibe of the team compared to last year? And last year at this point, the Padres had a worse record than they have now, being 49-42. Again, if you ask most people in San Diego before the season started, would you take 49-42, half week out from the All-Star game? I think you'd take that. But it does seem everyone in the NL got better. And there's a lot of teams, and Coach Quintero kind of highlighted that last week, is there's so many teams buying this year. There's so many teams that are all kind of going for the same group of guys, where in baseball, usually more than half of the teams are out of it. And it's kind of a select group that's trying to really get better. But listen, yeah, it's to your point, Fletch. I think it's hard. Hitting is where they need to start. You need hitting at the bottom of the lineup. not just because of last night. The bullpen is great when you have the big four. When you have Estrada, Morejon, Adam, and Suarez, I think you lack depth there, and that's why they struggled after the first month of the season. But that's still a really good group. And with starting pitching, Darvish coming back, and if we keep believing that Michael King is actually going to come back, if what they're saying is true, then they should be set there. But you cannot have, I mean, especially with Merrill struggling the way he has been, 5 through 9 is just an abomination, frankly, and it's hard to really go far in the playoffs if 5 through 9 is that bad.
We're going to get back to the Padres in about 10 minutes when Danny Vietti of CBS Sports comes on. He's the host of the Wake and Rake podcast. He also is like the leading insider from CBS Sports on the Major League Baseball. But, Sammy, I purposely left something off of the big three because I wanted to get your take on it eventually. LeBron James and the Lakers seem like they're heading for, I don't know, like a really emotional crying breakup where LeBron's going to be sitting on the couch eating ice cream, just kind of going with a scoop of vanilla ice cream. And then
I don't think LeBron eats ice cream if you look at his upper body.
And then he takes the chocolate syrup and he's like, I don't even want to put this straight on the ice cream. I'm just going to put the ice cream in my mouth and I'm going to put the chocolate syrup in my mouth.
To this, Fletch.
Well, I mean, I've done it once or twice. But Sammy, what's going on with LeBron and the Lakers, and why is their relationship in a quote iffy spot?
In my opinion, it's because LeBron has been not only the face of the NBA, but the face of any team he's been on, every team he's been on. When he got drafted to Cleveland, when he was in Miami, even though you had Wade and Bosh, it was LeBron's team. Then you go back to Cleveland, LeBron's team. When he went to the Lakers, it's LeBron's team. The Lakers are finally signaling that they're building around Luka Doncic. And with all due respect to LeBron, he's still an amazing player, but he's 40 years old, going to be 41. You're not building a franchise around him. Luka is the franchise. I think this is LeBron flexing his muscles a little bit. We heard the whole Rich Paul statement 2 weeks ago about how if LeBron wants to win now and he doesn't know if the Lakers and LA is the right spot for that. I'd be interested in 70470. Start your message with team. To all my Laker fans out there, would you want to get rid of LeBron? Because I think there's actually a big faction of Laker fans, and I could be a part of this, that people would be happy getting LeBron off the team. Now, if you get LeBron off the team, the Lakers are not winning a championship this year. And
wait, so Luka walks in the front door and you're already done with LeBron?
No, but the problem with the Lakers the last 5 years, outside of take the championship out of it, is they've been treading water. All you've been doing was trying to build for the future, but then you're also trying to keep LeBron happy because of his age. LeBron doesn't care about the future. LeBron doesn't care about draft picks because he's going to be retired when that happens. So I think that you've had this weird treading water, and Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka have really kind of let him do him. And with Mark Walter coming in, buying everything, it's kind of a new ownership. Luka's there. I think he's signaling that this is Luka's team. And even though this team is could have a good shot to win a title, DeAndre Ayton was a big ad. I think LaRavia makes Connect expendable. LeBron could be on the move. I think there's a lot more smoke here. Buha, there was a report today that they're at a bad place. I don't know where LeBron's going to go, though, unless it's Cleveland or New York. That's kind of the only thing. And if I'm Cleveland, if I'm the Lakers and they offer Darius Garland for LeBron, I'm doing that in a second, even though LeBron's a way better player because you're getting a young guard in return. I'm curious what LeBron's trade market would be considering his age, even though he's still a great player.
Yeah, and you would think it would have to be LeBron's choice if he's leaving. I don't think the Lakers would make that decision because I think Pelinka wouldn't have the stones to do it. So I really think that if LeBron wanted to leave, he can leave, and the Lakers might be happy about that. And like you said, Lakers fans might actually be happy about that. But this is not going to come from the Lakers. It's not like they're going to go out shopping for a suitor for LeBron. It would have to be LeBron saying, hey, I am leaving, and this is where I want to go and make it happen.
And Fletch, you made a point yesterday about how, this could be related back to the Padres. It's interesting from people looking at it might be what's best for the team to sell, to try to recoup some of the stuff. But then again, what you just said about ticket sales and Manny Machado hasn't been the best player in the playoffs, except Manny Machado sells a lot of jerseys and he sells a lot of tickets to the ballpark. There's a business side of having LeBron James that you're tapping into markets to jersey sales and things that even though it might be the best thing for the future of the team to get him off it, that to that point, I don't know that Pelinka's doing that unless Mark Walter comes in and goes, I don't really care what Pelinka wants.
Yeah, but you're just talking about the Lakers, who are one of the richest sports franchises, not even just basketball franchises. And then you're talking about the Padres. It's a very different situation. Like the Lakers could recover financially from it in a heartbeat, even if it does mean a few less jerseys are sold or a few less tickets are sold. The Padres are in this spot right now where they have so much money wrapped up for so long in guys who the contracts are going to age bad. And in the case of Xander Bogaerts, the contract has never even started to age. It's just been bad that you can't really compare the two because with the Padres, they're stuck with people. The Lakers might be stuck with LeBron, but LeBron is ready to move. And in the NBA, you have so much more mobility with players. because of the way the contracts are set up. Whereas in baseball, like Xander Bogaerts could just sit back and collect $25 million a year and literally get even worse than he's already been. Basketball, it's very different, but with the Padres, man, they're just in a bad spot right now. Because if you start selling and signaling to to your fan base that, hey, yeah, you know what, this year we're giving up a little bit, but this is going to be better for the future, I promise you. Well, you just started getting these fans in the ballpark a few years ago. When I first moved to San Diego, the place was empty. And then Peter Seidler started spending. And then quickly the place started filling up. And now they've made all these renovations to Gallagher Square. They've added to this team. They've made it a competitive ball club for the last 3 or 4 years outside of that one bizarre year with Soto. So it's the fan base is expecting they're going to the ballpark to see winning. And if you sell right now and you hurt the winning product this year, this fan base could leave you just as easily as they came in.
And I know we're up against it here, but to that point, people go, theoretically, if you would have kept all the Nationals prospects, you would have kept CJ Abrams, James Wood, Mackenzie Gore, the Padres would be sitting here as a World Series favorite. I mean, that's filthy. But then again, everyone makes that deal for Soto, even though maybe it cripples you for a little bit in the future because of the ticket sales, because of the jersey sales and things like that, that keeps the excitement at the ballpark. Was Xander Bogaerts rushed after they missed out on Aaron Judge and Trey Turner? Probably. They probably gave they clearly did give Xander Bogaerts way too much money because he hasn't performed, but it's excitement and things like that. So if I'm with the Padres, I'm either buying in or I'm selling. Because is selling, even though the fans don't want to hear it, it's better than holding. Because holding, I feel like, is just the worst of both worlds. It's kind of like the Lakers. You're playing between going to the future by also trying to maintain a team right now. You got to go all in on one.
Holding's a bad idea, and yet I kind of think that's where we're headed, and I really do. All right, coming up next, it's Danny Vietti. Maybe he can answer that question for us. What are the Padres going to do at the trade deadline? Who is going to be making the most noise at the trade deadline? Danny Vietti, the lead reporter on Major League Baseball for CBS Sports, is coming up next. He also has a podcast called the Wake and Rake Podcast. Danny Vietti's up next here on San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Diamondbacks Padres Game 3 tonight. So getting going at 6:40. Split so far in the series. Arizona 45 and 47 on the season, with San Diego 49 and 42. Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres, while Brandon Pfaadt will be going for the Diamondbacks. And the MLB All-Star Game is going to utilize the ABS challenge system during the All-Star Game that will call balls and strikes. So there will be robot umps. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Start at Indeed.com/credit.
Tonight, 6 o'clock, right here on San Diego Sports 760. It's SDFC Midweek Live here from the head coach, Mikey Vadas, as well as interviews with players and coaches. That gets started at 6 o'clock tonight, right here on your home for SDFC, San Diego Sports 760. It's Ben Fletcher and Sammy Long with you till 2 o'clock today. John and Jim will take over then, and we got a trade deadline looming in Major League Baseball at the end of the month. Only one person to go to with a few weeks left to go. His name is Danny Vietti. He works with CBS Sports, also the Wake and Rake podcast. Danny, it's been a while, man. How are you?
I'm good, brother. Appreciate you having me. A lot is going to go down these next couple weeks, including the All-Star game, the trade deadline, like you mentioned. It's kind of make or break time for a lot of teams, including your San Diego Pods.
Yeah, these San Diego Padres are a little confusing right now, Danny. It's like they're winning, but no one really feels 100% comfortable with how they're winning a lot of games. Like last night was the 5th time this season they've won a game 1-0, which is a cool stat, but it's like a little uneasy stat. Where do you see the Padres right now amongst some of the better teams in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, they remind me a lot of the 10, 12, 14 Giants in that. And by the way, for those that don't remember, those teams, of course, ended up winning the World Series in each of those seasons. But it's really a case where you're just kind of floating by offensively, and your pitching is giving you a chance to win ball games. And look, that's baseball. You know, winning close games is absolutely a key ingredient to winning a title. We've seen it in years prior. Like the Texas Rangers were phenomenal 2 years ago in one-run games. The Dodgers over the last 10 plus years have been great in one-run games and hitting with runners in scoring position. So it's those little things that absolutely add up to success. But you look at their numbers, like their on-base percentage this year for the Padres as a team, it's like 18th in baseball last I checked. But you look at what they're doing with runners in scoring position, they have an OPS that's 27th in baseball. So they're getting guys on base at, a relatively average pace on base percentage, like I said, at 18th. Not great, but not terrible. But scoring position, runners in scoring position, 27th in baseball, that's not going to get it done. So they're getting guys on base, and I think that's what's adding to this frustration with Padre fans is they are getting on base at a, like I said, relatively decent clip, but they're just not driving guys in. And then not to mention, they're not slugging with teams right now. They're getting a lot of singles, mixing some doubles. The power numbers have not been there for this club. And that's why I kind of compare it to the 10, 12, 14 Giants, because the Giants, kind of similar to the Padres, played in a pitcher-friendly ballpark. Starting pitching was giving them chances to win ball games, but the power numbers have not been there, with the exception of, Manny Machado and Tatis at times. But I think that's what, looking ahead at the trade deadline and what they're going to need, they're going to need some pop in that lineup to provide a little bit more production, slug-wise, power-wise, for this team to succeed.
There's been some smoke. Jeff Passan possibly reported that the Pirates could be trading Paul Skeens. Is there any truth to that? You think he gets moved, or is that just smoke?
I would guess that that's just smoke. I don't have any sources telling me this by any means, but indications are, at least from everything I've heard and kind of been involved with, is it would take a remarkable, magical, perfect deal to deal out Paul Skeens. I think Pittsburgh is still hanging on to the idea that they can get Paul Skeens and Jared Jones, their other former top pitching prospect. I think they're hanging on to the idea and clinging to the idea that they can have those two in the starting rotation, and possibly even Mitch Keller if they don't deal him at the deadline. Because we've seen it before. If you have three starting pitchers, dominant starting pitchers, you give yourself and your team a chance to go on a playoff run. And with Pittsburgh being the ownership that they have, not willing to invest into a ball club, I think they hold on to Skeens at least for one more year, if not longer. I would be shocked if they dealt Skeens at the deadline.
Not to mention today, July 9th, 2003 was the release date of the original Pirates of the Caribbean movie, Curse of the Black Pearl. So Pirates. I don't know, Danny. It could be crazy. Danny,
That's a stretch.
a little bit of one. It's also the release date of Anchorman, 2004, July 9th. But Danny, you look across Major League Baseball, and I think the problem that teams like the Padres are facing is there's too many teams who all view themselves as playoff teams. So is there anybody you could see dropping out of the buyers conversation and maybe into the sellers or into the holders conversation over the next 2 weeks? Who do you think would be most likely to do so?
No, that's a great point. And this is a result of this expanded playoff that happened a couple of years ago when it was implemented. And that's, we don't know who are going to be players. You look at, for example, like the Atlanta Braves. This is a team that thinks they're in contention still. You look at their roster; they're full of star power. Olsen, Acuna, Albies, Sean Murphy, Austin Riley, Chris Sale in the rotation. Like, this is a team full of stars, and yet they haven't played up to their potential. And you look at the standings right now in Atlanta; they're 39-51. They're 10.5 games back of the wild card spot. They have pieces in place that they could deal out, like Reyes Iglesias in the bullpen, Albies potentially. They have players that they could deal. Sean Murphy, another example. But is Atlanta going to kind of throw in the towel when they have a lot of these young players still under contract and under team control for a while? That remains to be seen. The Arizona Diamondbacks, another great example. Eugenio Suarez is on pace for 35 plus home runs this year. But Arizona at 45 and 47, just 5.5 games back. Are they going to be willing to deal? As of right now, it's still kind of up in the air. And that's why I kind of mentioned like these next 2 to 3 weeks as we approach the deadline. That's why I called it make or break. It's because the point that you just made is there's a lot of teams, St. Louis Cardinals, the Cincinnati Reds, Atlanta Braves, like I mentioned, over on the American League side of things, Boston Red Sox, Texas Rangers, the Royals, Angels. All of these teams are kind of middle of the pack. And each of those teams have pieces at the deadline that teams are going to look to acquire. It just remains to be seen, like in 2-3 weeks, this wild card standing could look a whole lot different than it does today.
The Dodgers being the odds-on favorites from the World Series, but they've been struggling recently, 5 straight losses. What team in the NL, and where do the Padres rank on that as a real contender to beat them, that they should be the most scared of going into the postseason?
I think in regards to the Padres, I think if you were to ask the Dodgers, each of those players, and none of them would admit this, of course, but if you were to ask the Dodgers, okay, which team would you least want to face in the postseason? It would be the San Diego Padres. And that's just because the fact that the Padres have been able to get over the hump a couple times in recent years, beating the Dodgers in the postseason a couple of years ago, battling to the Game 5 last season. I don't think the Dodgers would say that they're intimidated or scared, but I don't think they want to play San Diego because San Diego is no longer a little brother anymore. For a while there, it was the Dodgers probably would have picked San Diego to play in the postseason just because they dominated them for so many years. Now, that fear factor is just completely out the window. San Diego is not scared of the Dodgers any longer. If anything, there's a little bit more intimidation, I think, on the other side because the Padres have nothing to lose each and every time they play the Dodgers. The Dodgers are going to be the favorites no matter who they play. The Padres, they're playing with house money. In regards to the rest of the league, or at least the rest of the National League, the Mets have a lineup that is comparable, power-wise, slug-wise, talent-wise, to the Dodgers. They don't have the pitching talent that the Dodgers have, at least when the Dodgers are healthy. San Francisco is kind of a sneaky team, especially with the acquisition of Rafael Devers, but their lineup just hasn't been able to produce enough runs. Their starting rotation, though, is certainly capable of shutting down a team like the Dodgers, kind of similar to how we saw 2 years ago, where the Arizona Diamondbacks came out of nowhere and shocked the world and beat the Dodgers in the National League Divisional Series, and then they went on to win the National League pennant. They had 3 starters with Kelly and Gallen. They might have had Erod at the time. I can't remember. Or it was Brandon Pfaadt. They had dominant starting pitchers that was able to topple that Dodger lineup. The Giants are certainly capable of doing that sort of thing. So, yes, it is the Dodgers' NL pennant to lose. They are the defending champs. They're as talented as any, but it's really just a matter of which team gets hot at the right time.
Danny, let's try to do something that's going to be damn near impossible here, by the way. Danny Vietti, CBS Sports, Wake and Rake podcast, joining us today on 760. let's try to get into the head of AJ Preller for a second. So he moves Josh Naylor a few years ago. I believe that was in the Mike Clevenger deal. It was all the way back then to bring Mike Clevenger over to the Padres. He moves James Wood and Mackenzie Gore and CJ Abrams when it's time for Juan Soto to come to town. Well, you look at Juan Soto, you look at Josh Naylor, or you look at Juan Soto, Mike Clevenger. Neither of them obviously contributing to the Padres this year. Meanwhile, James Wood hits a home run in a huge game against the Nationals just a couple weeks ago against the Padres. Josh Naylor 2 nights ago hits a home run against the Padres. Is there anything that might make him a little trigger shy going into this trade deadline, knowing this team needs a left fielder and probably some bullpen help and maybe a catcher, but understanding like a few years later, you might see some of your prospects and you're terrified to do that again?
Yeah, should and does are two very different questions when it comes to AJ Preller. He does not shy away from anything. I don't think any of his previous trades seem to. I'm sure he's learned from it. I think we've all loved to think we learn from said mistakes, depending on how you look at it. But I think this is also a guy that's kind of going to go down with his ship. And by that I mean not lose. I just mean that this is who AJ Preller is. And typically we see history tells us that GMs don't, go off course of what their history tells us. Typically GMs continue to stay on course and do what they think is best for their club. And AJ Preller is a guy that he's done a really nice job building up their farm system. When they had Gore and they had Abrams and like you said, Wood, Robert Hassel. And now it's looking a little different. You look at their top 100 prospects, they only have, and by them, I mean the San Diego Padres, they only have 2 in the prospect rankings in the latest MLB.com rankings in Leo DeVry and Ethan Salas. And these are 2 guys that haven't made it to the AAA level yet. So I think I don't think AJ Preller is going to steer off course, but it's a little different situation in that AJ Preller does not have the assets compared to in previous years past. So he's going to have to get a little bit more creative and kind of look at what he has farm system wise, because I don't see a package deal for, some blockbuster trade. I just don't think they have the prospects to get that done this year. And not to mention, there's really not a player out there that would garner a blockbuster type deal, with the exception of, like maybe Luis Robert. But even then, his value has really taken a hit over the last couple seasons.
Danny, you're the best, man. When's the next pod coming out?
You know what, man? It's kind of in a weird, wonky spot. I would love to give you a straight answer. Just I'll leave it at, it's under some changes right now, but a lot of the work right now is coming up on CBSSports.com. So stay tuned up on our YouTube channel.
It's like half of San Diego under construction. That's not a bad thing to be in. Building something new.
Sacramento's the same way right now, man. I can't go anywhere without getting an hour traffic.
Hey, brother. Appreciate you a lot, man. We'll talk to you soon. And find him at Danny Vietti. And on CBS Sports, the voice on a lot of the TikToks is usually Danny Vietti. Thank you, man.
All right, Benny. Always appreciate it, man.
All right. We'll talk to you later. Danny Vietti, CBS Sports. He is the best. Sammy, we're going to take a quick break. And long shots, once again, yesterday, how'd we do?
We were over 2 on baseball picks, and we're 2-0 on tennis. So I'm 5-0 on tennis over the last week. So baseball's a little frustrating me right now. Love me some baseball, but we're going to have a rebound today. I got a special lineup for us.
Are we going full tennis?
We have 2 tennis and 1 baseball. 1 very familiar baseball player.
Long shots coming up next. San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app.
Everyone knows what happens when you try to plan a vacation with the friend group. Someone wants a high-priced dinner. Someone wants to go to the pool. Someone wants to go on a helicopter ride. But let's just agree we meet in the sports book. Some people are in bed by 9 p.m. Fletch, if you and your group have trouble deciding on things, then coming to a consensus on a weekly pick for Circa Survivor may not be right for you because you got to pick one each week, and maybe that's not for you. But don't worry, Circa's got you covered with Circa Million, where you don't need friends to tell you what to pick. All you need to do is pick 5 teams against the spread each week, and you can win up to $6 million in guaranteed prizes. Winner gets $1 million, and get this: if you're the worst entry in the pool, you win the booby prize, which is $100,000 to the worst entry. All you got to do is sign up in Nevada, play from anywhere. It gives you an excuse to plan a summer Vegas trip. Fletch and I will be going out there in a month. Provides season-long fun all throughout the NFL season. The best part about it is while you're signing up, you get to relax in the Circa Sportsbook with wall-to-wall TVs outside the pool with a cocktail in your hand, showing off that summer body you've been working on for the last few months. Play Circa Survivor, and Circa Million, and win your money now.
iHeartRadio Music Festival is back. Live performances by Bryan Adams, Ed Sheeran, Mariah Carey, Maroon 5, Sammy Hagar, The Offspring, Tim McGraw, and more. September 19th and the 20th at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. 2 nights, 1 stage. Buy tickets now at AXS.com. Get them now before they sell out. Just had a nice conversation with Danny Vietti, kind of getting the vibe, the pulse check on what's going on around Major League Baseball. Just a few weeks out from the trade deadline and the All-Star break and everything that's about to be going down. Coming up at 1:30, we're actually going to check in with Mac Engel out in Dallas. He covers the Cowboys for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Get some info on what's coming up for maybe a third-placed NFC East team in the Dallas Cowboys. How about them Cowboys? Text line, Sammy, is requesting that I play the most infamous drop in the history of this radio station.
Will Eric Hosmer be an all-star this season?
No, he will not. 949. Unfortunately not. 949 also saying that the Lakers should take LeBron out back like Ole Yeller. Sammy, you're a Lakers fan. You agree with that?
That's it's a little aggressive, little aggressive there. But listen, if he wants to find a new place to roam, a new city to go back to, listen, you can send him back to Cleveland. I'm okay with getting younger.
858 says, as a Spurs fan, I love seeing the Lakers in misery, but they can't trade him because of his clause, and no way he wants to go anywhere else. It will only hurt his legacy. That's the thing, though. It kind of sounds like LeBron might want out, or what? He wants to be treated better. I don't know.
Yeah, he can waive his no trade clause. I think it'd be New York, Cleveland, or Dallas, or San Fran, or Golden State. I don't think the Lakers are in misery though right now.
I don't either. 619. Love that Danny called you Benny. Nice change of pace.
I like that.
Danny Vietti is one of the only people in my life that has ever called me Benny. It's like my sister and Danny Vietti, and maybe Mike Costa one time 6 years ago. Then I kicked him in the nards.
Real quick, do you not like that? Like, so people call, and so my real name's Samuel, but no one calls me. My entire family, friends, everyone's calling me Sammy.
I like calling you Sam.
See, I hate that. Now I know I'm going to get called Sam. Samuel is like whatever. It just feels like kind of, I don't know. It's fine. Sam,
look, I'm fine with everything. Just don't call me Benjamin. Just makes me feel like I'm in trouble.
Oh, was that what they would always do? They go Benjamin?
Just my mom. She's like the only person that's ever called me that. But every time she does, I know that, you know what? Wooden spoon's coming next. All right, let's get to long shots today. We had a loser yesterday because baseball just isn't working out. I did see the one I vetoed, but didn't veto was correct, right? Who was that?
Flaherty went over on strikeouts, and I put faith in Shota Imanaga. All he needed was to get 5. Dude got 1. He's supposed to be the ace for the Cubs. Like, what are we doing here, man?
User error, just like your microphone.
My microphone's off?
No, your mic's good now, but user error.
Oh, early on. Yeah, we were having some technical difficulties. But it's okay. That means we fight through adversity. That means long shot is going to hit tonight.
Let's see. Underdogs? Nah, that's old. Those with a less than good chance of winning? Too wordy. Wait, he's all big time now, huh? It's time for Sammy's Long Shots. Hold on. Can't talk until I say the important stuff. Long Shots is presented by Circa Million and Circa Survivor. Now, go.
All right, Sammy. I think during your long shots today, I'm just going to play a bunch of drops.
I love it. Play as many drops. There can never be enough drops on a show.
I'm just not going to talk the rest of the time. I'm just going to use the keyboard.
I love it.
Go ahead.
The computer is a third voice.
Victory!
Oh, Johnny Drama. That's what we're going to play tomorrow when we come in with a victory. Dylan Cease. That's what we're going to start. We're going to start with the Padres. This is going to be a unique one, though. 96.5 pitches thrown. Less than. I think the Padres bullpen's ready to go. Obviously, excellent pitching performance from both sides. I expect the offenses on both sides to kind of get going tonight because that was pretty pathetic performance from both sides. At least the Padres did score 1 run. The Diamondbacks were dreadful at the plate last night. 96.5 pitches thrown. This is a little steep for me, especially with Darvish coming back. You want to save Cease. I think the bullpen's ready to go. I don't think he goes past this. 96.5 is. I'm surprised it's actually this high. I thought it'd be more something like 91, 92. We're gonna go less than on 96.5 pitches thrown for Dylan.
Hola, mommy.
That's my favorite one. I've had to re-record that drop like 5 different times because somehow it keeps getting deleted. I don't know if it's our bosses saying it's not appropriate, but you know what? They don't. Hola, papi. Exactly. Carlos Alcaraz. We're going to tennis. So we're 5 for 5 on tennis in the last week. We hit with Carlos Alcaraz has been very kind to the show. Carlos Alcaraz is a very, very popular figure with the Fletch Zone here. Carlos Alcaraz, 37.5 total games playing Taylor Fritz. Now, I hate to go against the local kid. Taylor Fritz, Rancho Santa Fe kid. I'm pulling for him. He's the American. Unfortunately, Carlos on a mission. And I think some of these lines are a little skewed because he struggled in the first few games at Wimbledon. But this is like when you're a world champion, like the Chiefs. They struggle the first 2 weeks. They got to keep it close. They got to keep it interesting. Okay, because they're used to playing late into January and February. All right, Carlos is playing. He won Roland Garros. Came back from Yannick Sinner, who was up 2 sets. Epic final match at Roland Garros. Struggled in the first set. Got taken 5 sets in the first match at Wimbledon. Now he's playing Taylor Fritz. It's money time. I think less than 37.5 total games. Fritz may get a set, but I think Carlos closes this thing out. He may lose the first one and then go the next 3. Carlos Alcaraz, less than 37.5 total games. Tombstone. We hitting all the great movies today.
Yo, man, let's get out of here. Word to your mother.
Now we're gonna go to the women's side. Arnia Sabalenka, so playing 21.5 total games. Now Sabalenka is the number 1 tennis player in the world. She's the odds-on favorite at -145 to win the whole thing. She lost to Coco Gauff at Roland Garros, but she's playing an American, Amanda Anamasova, and 21.5 total games is the thing here. Because remember, the women only play 3 sets, where the men play 5. We're gonna go over 21.5 here. I think Amanda, she's really good. She has the kind of potential at her low. She can get beat by anyone. When she's at her high, though, she has the ability to take down Swiatek and Sabalenka and all those. I think this is a tough match for Sabalenka. Probably going to be looking ahead to Iga. So we're going to go more than 21.5 games here. I think Amanda's got a shot here on the American side to potentially get to the Final 4, which would be exciting. We got operator air going. No, you're good. Rich McGuire. So now I expect he to throw a no tonight. Thanks, Sammy. Yeah, see, it's a bonus because if he goes above this, that means that Dylan Cease probably doing fantastic. Padres probably having a really good night. And if he doesn't, hey, at least we're winning some money off him. So to recap,
Will Eric Hosmer be an all-star this season?
Dylan Cease, 96.5 pitches thrown, less than. Carlos Alcaraz, less than 37.5 total games against Taylor Fritz. Arnia Sabalenka, more than 21.5 total games against Amanda on the American side. Listen, we're money on tennis. Okay. We've been Wimbledon has been very kind to us. Unfortunately, the MLB has not been the last week, but we're going to get it back tonight, and we're going to be playing Johnny Drama Drops when we come in there tomorrow.
You have been weirdly good at tennis. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Hour number 1 in the books. Billy Currington is coming up in hour number 2. If you're just joining us today, my name is Ben Fletcher. Usually I'm in that room, and Sammy's sitting where I'm sitting, but today Sammy is somewhere else, and so I'm running the board, so I'm having some fun with the drops that I probably shouldn't be doing, but you know what? I haven't done this in a while, so it's good stuff. Hour number 2 is coming up next. Billy Currington tickets on the line. Mac Engel is going to be joining us out of Dallas to talk some Cowboys. What are they going to be doing here in the 2025-26 NFL season? All of that still to come here on San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is presented by Mattress Firm. Padres back game 3 against the Diamondbacks. They're split 1-1 so far in the season, or in the series so far. Brandon Pfaadt be going for the Diamondbacks, while Dylan Cease will be going for the Padres. Padres currently minus 150 on the money line, with the run line set at 7.5. In star right tackle, Tristan Wirfs for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will miss the start of the season. He had arthroscopic knee surgery to address lingering soreness, per Adam Schefter. This has been presented by Sleep Mattress.
It's hour number 2 here on San Diego Sports 760. Ben Fletcher, Sammy Long with you till 2 o'clock today. John and Jim, or I believe just Jim, is going to take over right after that. We got Mac Engel coming up at 1:30. If you don't know who Mac is, he writes out in Dallas for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. He's a Cowboys beat reporter. We're going to talk with him a little bit about what's to come for the Dallas Cowboys this year, with Dak Prescott at the helm, with a new wide receiver by the name of George Pickens joining the fray. Tons of Cowboys fans out here in San Diego. I'm sorry for everything you've had to endure over the last 30 years, but maybe this year is a little different situation for the Dallas Cowboys. All right, we do have a little quarterback talk I want to get to here in hour number 2 before we get to the big 3, and that's talking about the second-year quarterbacks who are coming in. The Jaden Daniels, the Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Drake May, Bo Nix. Like, who is going to be under some pressure heading into next season? Who's the most interesting of those young guys heading into next season? And Sammy, before I get your thoughts on this, I got to say the most interesting to me right now, right off the bat, because of what's happened over the last few days, is Michael Penix. Like, the amount of talent the dude had in college, the amount of injuries he went through in college to get to the NFL and sit behind Kirk Cousins for 6 or 7 games before being thrust into the starting role. I think Michael Penix is ridiculously fascinating heading into this year, not just because of what Kirk Cousins said about the fact that he felt misled by the Atlanta Falcons before getting into a Falcons jersey after they drafted Michael Penix, but because of the fact that the Falcons have a stacked offense. Like, they got some serious skill position players with Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts and Drake London. The Falcons could be a very, very good team. Is he the right quarterback to make them a good team? I think he has all the talent in the world, but it's going to matter if he can catch up to the NFL game and if he can stay healthy here in year 2. I think Michael Penix, without a doubt, is the most fascinating to me as of right now. That can change.
Penix is interesting because with Penix, it's like they threw him in at the end of the year when I believe they were like 7-7 or something like that, or 9-7, and they had the shot to make the playoffs. And Kirk was an abomination the last month he was starting with that Charger game when he threw like 4 interceptions at home against the Chargers. And it felt like this team, Michael Penix has the ability to be really good. And to your point, he's got all the weapons around him. That's why I'm actually going to go with JJ McCarthy. All the quarterbacks last year, with the exception of maybe Drake May this year, got put in situations where they're potentially winning teams. JJ McCarthy. I mean, Sam Darnold was in the MVP race. They were 14-3 and one of the best records in football.
Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and Caleb Williams as well. Caleb Williams, everyone thought was going to take off, and I was guilty. I was one of those as well. I thought all the weapons he had. Now, the Bears hadn't really addressed their offensive line or defensive line, but I mean, outside of Drake May, who we knew the Patriots were not going to be a very good team, Bo Nix, Denver was an up-and-coming team. So it's if one of these teams is drafting at the top of the class next year, like, are we seeing a Arizona situation, Kyler Murray, where they're taking a quarterback simply because, like, these teams there's not really a rookie runway anymore because everyone's so talented and on talented teams. Penix is interesting, but McCarthy, I mean, that's got to be odd. I mean, you take over for Sam Darnold, who is beloved, who was an MVP candidate. You throw in a Justin Jefferson and Addison and TJ Hawkinson. I mean, you have an unreal receiving core. If they struggle at all early, like, Kevin O'Connell's going to get crushed.
Well, we also have no idea what JJ McCarthy is. We saw him in college, and he was a little bit of a handoff merchant, screen pass merchant, but he had a ton of success at Michigan. What is JJ McCarthy going to look like at the next level? All we hear out of Minnesota is that this guy is awesome. Kevin O'Connell loves him. The mental stuff is all there. I'm sure minicamp, which gets started next week, we're going to hear rave reviews on JJ McCarthy. But the truth is, we have no idea what he is until week 1 when the Minnesota Vikings take the field. My brother-in-law is a diehard Vikings fan, one of the biggest ones I've ever met. He's pooping his brains out right now because he doesn't know what JJ McCarthy is going to be, and nobody does. It's such a risk for the Vikings to move off a guy like Sam Darnold what did he end up making? $100 million, a little bit more than that.
Yeah, 3 years, $100 million.
Like, that's an affordable quarterback. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but the Minnesota Vikings probably could have done that. And the fact that they didn't and showed the faith that they showed in JJ McCarthy, it's insane to me, man. But we'll see how it goes.
And I understand it more from the Falcons' perspective of if you're like Penix was 24 years old. The knock on him coming in the draft is that he was old because he played at Indiana. Then he transferred to Washington. They went to the national championship game. So I'd be more apt to give him the job, knowing he even though he's not a rookie, but he's second-year player, kind of a veteran of football, of the system in college football. JJ McCarthy was a guy who, yes, he lit up Ohio State, but people watching that game, it was all wide open guys. They were completely out scheming him, with Harbaugh as the head coach. And this was a guy the final 7 weeks of the season when they won the championship that didn't throw more than one touchdown pass in any game. And they had some clunker games in there. So this is a complete prospect that's going to have to be learning on the fly. And I think he's going to get crushed if they don't win a bunch of games immediately. I don't think he's ready to win a bunch of games immediately.
All right, let's get to the big three of hour number 2, where we go through the top stories in the world of sports. We do this every hour of every single show. Sammy Long walks us through them. I had to do it last hour. That was a bit of a disaster, but let's get it going here in hour number 2.
Your lunch break is here. Ready to go back to the office and knock the socks off your friends? Coworkers? It's time for the top stories of the day. The Big Three.
And just a little insight on what I'm dealing with here. So you can watch the show both on Twitter at Fletch and Sammy, and then on YouTube at San Diego Sports 760. Right now, if you do so, you're just going to see me, which is a huge mistake. But what I'm dealing with is the fact that Sammy Long didn't even bring his computer charger.
No, I did. So can you believe this?
What do you mean you did?
No, I did. I was on the stream, so I brought my computer.
No, your charger.
Oh, first off, I was upfront about this 2 weeks ago on the radio. No, I never got a charger. I told our program director, Mary Ayala, that I never got a charger, and she said I was lying.
There's no shot. The charger is in the computer box.
Why would I lie about having a charger? I had 73% battery. It said I had 3 hours remaining. This was at 11:45. I was like, oh, great. And then all of a sudden, 10 minutes ago, it's like, oh, your computer's dead. So listen, we're learning on the fly today, Fletch. You know how it is.
I'm just saying, there's no shot there was no charger in that computer box.
Jim Russell probably stole it. Sometimes he stole my headphones a month ago.
Sometimes there's a secondary cardboard box inside the original cardboard box, and that's where the charger is. So you might have just thrown it away.
Probably. That, you know what? Knowing me, that's probably true.
All right, where are we starting?
Okay, the MLB to use the ABS system during All-Star Game in Atlanta. So that means robot umps calling balls and strikes. Fletch, I never really got your thoughts on this. Do you want the MLB to move to this full time? Are you excited to see this in action?
Yes, I think it's silly that we're not there yet. I think it's silly that we weren't there 10 years ago. Like, we've had this technology for a long time. All anyone ever does is complain about umpires. Mike Schilt got tossed out of another game last night. It's like, we know that this is coming eventually. Why Major League Baseball is slow-played it as much as they have is confusing to me. I think it's going to be a learning curve for sure. There's going to be games that get decided potentially in the regular season, the first year that gets introduced by a mistake by a pitcher or a hitter when it comes to the automatic balls and strike system. I just think it's silly that we're not already there, knowing the amount of stress and strife and betting and everything that umpires have caused Major League Baseball over the last few years.
Especially in a sport where an umpire could literally dictate a game. And I'm not saying they're throwing games. I'm just saying, like, literally, you can tell if you bet an over-under in baseball, you can tell if it's going to hit in the first inning because you can tell how they're calling it. If it's a very lenient strike zone, it feels like every ump has their own thing where it's going to be, maybe it's one's kind of wide, but it's not super vertical. I'm excited to see it in action. It'll be fun in the All-Star game. Gives you kind of something to watch because honestly, I don't know about you, Fletch, but most All-Star games, the Pro Bowl is an abomination. The NBA All-Star game, no one tries. Baseball is kind of the one that's okay that you can kind of watch because they're basically playing a real game. But I'm excited to see it. And yeah, it'll be fun to know that you'll take this out of games. Whereas, because it feels like every time there's a big game, it's this call went that way and all this stuff. So I'm excited to check it out. All right, on to
Will Eric Hosmer be an All-Star this season?
Talking about the All-Star game, what's next?
Chet Holmgren signs a 5-year, $250 million deal today, combined with the total with SGA, who signed a $385 million contract a couple weeks ago. $535 million handed out to two players. Jalen Williams is next. Fletch, do you think this is the right move, trying to create a big three there and kind of getting rid of the depth of Oklahoma City?
The only way this is a good move is within this contract, there must be a stipulation somewhere that says you will gain 35 pounds by the time next season starts. Look, I like Chet Holmgren. I loved him in college. I think he has potential to be really, really good. He's an extremely talented, skilled big man, but he's not big enough. So if Chet Holmgren can put on some weight, put on some muscle, I mean, that's the only way this contract makes sense. But he's going to need to become a force because that's what you just contributed to him is $250 million for him to become a force. Even though they won the championship, it wasn't on the back of Chet Holmgren. If he is able to really grow literally, then yeah, it's worth it. But as of right now, you're not paying Chet Holmgren this edition $250 million. You're paying him for what you hope he becomes.
This is a massive mistake if I'm Sam Presti. And Sam Presti's earned the right to not have me tell him what to do because he's hit on literally everything he's ever done. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a superstar, and I understand him getting paid like that because he's an MVP. He is a bona fide number one in the NBA, so I have no problem with that. Chet Holmgren making this much money, maybe it's just me. I don't see Chet Holmgren as a max salary level player, and I think we could see what's going on with, especially how talented the West is with. I mean, you could make a legit case for 6-7 different teams to win the title next year, and people wouldn't call you crazy. With how tight the West is, the Thunder do have a lot of draft picks, but it feels like, I mean, Holmgren had a lot of no-shows in those NBA playoffs. In some of those, Jalen Williams is next to get paid. I feel like what kind of makes the Thunder go is the fact that you have the Lou Dorts, you have the Alex Crusoes that was at Petco Park the other night, actually, the Isaiah Hartensteins, all that kind of stuff that made a collective of a team that's so good defensively. I think we could see a Denver situation where you have a couple stars paid and then a lot of filler pieces down the road, and I don't know if that's winning a title in the West. Fletch,
Right.
We got time for one more?
Yeah, squeeze one more in.
All right, let's say with the NBA. Nikola Jokic has informed the Nuggets he will not sign a contract extension with the Nuggets this summer. Trouble in paradise, Fletch?
Here's the thing. Nikola Jokic was like the only dude trying in their playoff run this year for the Nuggets. You remember those games. He was exhausted running up and down the court, and some people blame conditioning. I blame it on the fact that he was the only one doing anything for the Nuggets. If he's looking back while he's watching his horses race or whatever, I think one of his horses actually just won a couple days ago out in Slovenia. But if he's just sitting back watching his horses and remembering back to this postseason, I'd probably want out too.
Yeah, I mean, they make him do everything. He was literally coaching the team, even though Adelman was the interim coach. You saw him on the sideline coaching the team. They have not given him a lot of help. And as I mentioned with the Thunder thing, I think this kind of goes hand in hand. Look, when they won the title, you had an elite roster filled with Bruce Brown and KCP and a lot of complimentary players that were really excellent. They've shortened the rotation down to 7 guys. I mean, Jamal Murray's a fantastic postseason player. He's not a great regular season player. You ship Michael Porter Jr. out, get Cam Johnson back, which I think was a pretty good move. But it just feels like the Nuggets kind of lost some of their identity. We thought that they were going to be a dynasty, and they haven't been so far. So I kind of get Jokic making them put pressure and see what head coach if he likes the new head coach they got there.
All right, Mac Angle is going to be joining us coming up at 1:30. But coming up next, I want to get into this real quick because in football we knocked Dan Marino for not having enough rings. In basketball, LeBron James would be the clear-cut GOAT if he had as many rings as Michael. Why don't we do the same thing in baseball? We got some examples coming up next. It's San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app, and also Billy Currington tickets on the other side, so don't go anywhere. You are listening to San Diego Sports 760. Call Gary Cooper today, 858-376-1299. If you want to eliminate the smoke and the mirrors and the shell games when it comes to mortgages, you call Mountain Trust Mortgage and Realty or visit them online at mountaintrustmortgage.com. Gary, we are starting to see some positive news out of the federal government, out of the local government here in San Diego, or at least the local newspaper, about interest rates starting to trickle down. Are we jumping at this opportunity?
We should. I mean, I still read the Union Tribune, and when they print it, if it wasn't true, average interest rate for 30-year fixed mortgages falls to 6.67 from a week ago, 6.77. And a year ago, it was at 6.95. So, yes, it's slow improvement, but it is improvement. And if you hear of rates being lower, be aware, consumers, you're paying points to buy down to get that gimmick or that advertised interest rate. But always remember, and I talk about this all the time, the benchmark for long-term interest rates is the 10-year bond. The 10-year bond is a great directional tool to know which way interest rates are going. You can find it on finance.yahoo.com. But if the bond goes up, pricing is getting worse. If the bond goes down, pricing is getting better.
Better yet, go to Gary's office and he will show you exactly where to find it. Bookmark it on your computer. That's what my wife and I did. Call Gary Cooper today, 858-376-1299. Hell, send me an email, benjaminfletcher@iheartmedia.com. I will put you directly in touch with Gary Cooper. Give him a call today, 858-376-1299, or visit them online at mountaintrustmortgage.com. San Diego Sports 760. We got 13 chances today for you to win $1,000 every single weekday with the bonus bucks giveaway. Listen for the keyword, enter it at sportssd.com. Your next chance to win $1,000 coming up at 2:00 right here on San Diego Sports 760. My name is Ben Fletcher. That is Sammy Long. We're with you till 2:00 today before Jim Russell takes over on a Johnless John and Jim. Should be a lot of fun later on today. But right now, I did want to get into something quickly. Billy Currington tickets coming up in about 4 minutes. But Sammy, when you think about the NFL and when you think about the NBA, when you get into the GOAT conversation, the first thing that pops up is rings. Like Dan Marino has all the stats in the world, but he never got a Super Bowl ring. So we obviously downgrade him a little bit. Tom Brady has the most, Joe Montana after that. Those are the two who come up. Basketball, I think the majority of the country would probably agree that MJ still holds the GOAT title over LeBron. And if LeBron had more rings, he would have it without a doubt. But in baseball, it doesn't really feel that way. And I'll give you a couple of examples off the top of your head. Who is the greatest power hitter of all time in Major League Baseball?
I go. Obviously, I think you gotta go Barry Bonds.
I think you have to. Who is the greatest contact hitter all time in Major League Baseball?
I think we're gonna go with the hometown guy, Tony Gwynn.
I think you have to. Guess what? Neither of those guys have.
Rings.
Neither of them have a World Series ring. Barry Bonds got close once. Tony Gwynn got to a World Series, or two of them actually, but he never really got close to winning either of them. So it does feel like in baseball it's a little different. And I know the answer why. It's because it's more of a team game and you're not playing both ways unless your name is Shohei Ohtani. But it does feel like Manny Machado's legacy might hinge on whether or not he brings a ring to San Diego. And I do think Manny's going to be a Hall of Famer if he continues on this pace. But don't you think that Manny's, whether he's in the top 50 baseball players all time or just another guy who had a great career of statistics, depends on whether or not he brings a World Series to San Diego?
Yeah, I mean, the Hall of Fame thing, I think he's in. Like, I don't think that's, but yes, when you get thought of as an all-time great player, it's interesting how I get why baseball, like, look at Mike Trout. Mike Trout is going to be considered of the last decade one of the best players that there's been, and he'll go down a conversation of a guy that he won't get too far down the list before you talk about Mike Trout, and he hasn't even sniffed. He's been in the postseason like once or twice.
He's been in the postseason once. He's played in 3 games. He lost all 3. He has a career postseason batting average of .089. He has 1 home run and 1 RBI.
I mean, look at how we talk about the NFL quarterbacks. Justin Herbert was the hot young quarterback there for a minute. And everyone thought, oh, Herbert's the guy, and he still could be, that could be up there in the conversation of one of the best quarterbacks in football. And his stock has completely plummeted in that regard because of he's owned one in the postseason with the massive choke job, and then he didn't beat the Raiders to even get in the postseason. NBA, it makes the most sense because you're playing both ways, so you can guard the best player. I mean, if we never got to see a Kobe LeBron matchup, but that would have been unbelievable to watch them guarding each other. So rings seem to matter the most there. But with baseball, as a hitter, I think it should matter more. As if you're an ace pitcher, you're only pitching once every 5 days. I mean, you could win both of your starts and everyone else could lose. So I understand where it's not as big of a deal there. But I mean, like, look at Clayton Kershaw. Clayton Kershaw is one of the great pitchers of all time. And until he got his ring, I mean, people really downgraded him because he choked in the postseason. He wasn't good in October. Certainly a run from Manny Machado, I think, would put him up there. But, I think he's already certainly up there to begin with.
Well, what's bizarre is a guy like Derek Jeter, who, if you actually look at his career, he wasn't a great defensive shortstop. He was obviously a great hitter, but Derek Jeter was a guy. But because of his leadership, because of the fact that they won so many World Series with him, Derek Jeter gets elevated into like the GOAT conversation, which I think is a little ridiculous. We could talk to Steve Hartman about that. He has a ton of opinions on it. But it is just interesting that baseball is treated very differently from both basketball and football. All right, we got Mac Angle coming up in about 5 minutes here. We're going to give away Billy Currington tickets in about 30 seconds, but a couple texts I wanted to get to first. 619 with an Anchorman quote, Baxter, you know I don't speak Spanish. You ate a whole wheel of cheese? I'm not even mad. That's impressive. 21 years since Anchorman got released in theaters as of today. 619, 4 straight hours of Jim. I might as well just listen to a crying baby on a loop for 4 hours.
Oh, Russell.
Poor Jim. I do feel bad for him sometimes. All right, if you want a pair of tickets to go see Billy Currington Saturday, July 19th at Gallagher Square at Petco Park, call right now, 877-767-4760. Billy Currington and Kip Moore at Gallagher Square in Petco Park. Tickets and info at Ticketmaster.com. Caller number 6, you're going to the show. Let's get a quick tennis update before we talk to Mac Angle out in Dallas with a Cowboys update coming up next on San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app.
This update is presented by the San Diego International Airport. Diamondbacks, Padres, Game 3 going tonight. Padres won last night, 1-0. Padres currently favored by -150 on the money line. Brandon Pfaadt will be going for the Diamondbacks, while Dylan Cease will be going for the Pods. Padres currently favored by -150. And Tristan Wirfs has been sidelined, star right tackle for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers due to a knee injury. He should be back midway through the season. This update has been presented by the San Diego International Airport.
San Diego Sports 760, and alongside iHeartRadio, we are trying to help out a little bit here because the devastating Texas floods have impacted countless residents. Families have lost their homes, communities and lives have been shattered, and children are still missing. The need is urgent. The Community Foundation of the Texas Hill Country has launched the Kerr County Flood Relief Fund to support response, relief, and long-term recovery efforts. All donations are going to go directly to trusted local organizations to provide food, shelter, healthcare, and hope. Join us today and donate to the Kerr County Flood Relief Fund at communityfoundation.net. We were expected to be joined by Mac Engel here out of Dallas. He works with the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, but it looks like we might have to push that to tomorrow. Actually, Sammy, take the wheel for a second. Mac's calling right now.
All right. Well, we're going to get to, it's 1 week out from the NFL season. And I don't know about everybody else, but I am absolutely stoked. I believe the Bills camp gets underway here on the 15th on Tuesday. Cowboys, interesting division. There's Cowboys fans everywhere. That's a tough division to kind of get into because Philadelphia deserves to be the favorite as the defending champs, but that defense has been completely picked apart. And then Washington, Jaden Daniels, do we see a CJ Stroud type progression, or does he kind of a continuous ascension? Because I think there's a real argument that he could break in that top 5 quarterback conversation. Some people had him ahead of Burrow, which I'm not sure I would knock Burrow out yet, but Jaden Daniels certainly has that kind of potential, especially having 2 road playoff victories last year on the road.
Nice work, Sammy. You did great.
Beautiful.
All right, we do have Mac Engel now. He is at Mac Engel Prof on X. You can find him there. He works with the Dallas Fort Worth Star-Telegram, and he covers the Dallas Cowboys. And so let's get Mac on right now. Mac, how we doing, man? Ben Fletcher, Sammy Long.
Oh, I'm outstanding. I want to apologize. You guys were blowing me up, and I didn't even realize that I'm at Big 12 Media Days here in Frisco.
Anything good?
Where the second Deion Sanders talked today. He's full of it, so he's always highly entertaining. And who do we have talk today? Houston, Kansas, Arizona, TCU. I don't know, some other ones. Yeah, it's very exciting. The Big 12 is going to win the national championship, and it's amazing that when you go to these conference media day things, you get this weird combination of victimhood and heroism virtually in the same sentence. It's the most amazing league that you've ever heard of, but you cannot possibly comprehend the challenges that face this league and these coaches every minute of the day as they count millions of dollars. And every league claims it.
What did Deion have to say? Did he talk anything about Shador and about Travis Hunter?
Actually, he didn't. I was a little surprised by that. He did a main press conference and he did mention Shador, and then he'd worked out today, and apparently back wherever Deion's living. I think Deion has houses in North Texas and obviously lives in Boulder. But I get the impression I think Shador is probably working out with his dad in Prosper, Texas, which is I guess a suburb or community north of Dallas. And he mentioned, one of the things that he did mention just coincidentally was how important to his career here at Colorado, his first win of his career was at Colorado, and that was at TCU. You remember that was 2023. TCU was coming off an appearance in the national championship game. Deion was coaching Colorado for the first time, and Colorado walked into TCU and upset them. And that introduced the world to Travis Hunter. It introduced Shador Sanders to, and I shouldn't say introduced everybody because those guys had played with him at Jackson State. That was a much smaller audience, but I would definitely say it introduced all of college football to the talent level of Travis Hunter. And that Deion Sanders, this was not just some, circus act, that he was here to win and to make his program nationally relevant, which that win certainly launched them on their current trajectory to being a nationally relevant team.
We got Mac Engel on the phone today. He works for the Dallas-Fort Worth Star-Telegram out in Texas, covering the Dallas Cowboys and at the Big 12 Media Day, which is an added bonus, Mac. But you look ahead to this season, and Sammy and I have had this conversation now a couple times where we're trying to look at the NFC East and find out where the Cowboys actually fit. Obviously, with the resurgent Commanders program, the Eagles coming off a Super Bowl, the Giants, who had a really nice draft, I think, this year. Where do you see the Cowboys fitting in when it's all said and done at the end of this year? Are we potentially looking at a third place Cowboys team?
Well, no football team in the NFL benefited more from the ownership of Dan Snyder than the Dallas Cowboys. If you look at the Cowboys' record against the Redskins/Commanders when Dan Snyder owned that team, it was a glorified homecoming game. It was that lopsided. And, I know a lot of people get upset with Jerry Jones for his tenure as owner and GM of the Cowboys. And certainly there's some other franchises that you would look at, fellas, and say, well, gee whiz, they're terrible and they've had a horrible run, whether it's Chargers sometimes, the Lions before this current run with God, I'm blanking on his name, Dan Campbell and that crew. And then some other ones, the Cincinnati Bengals, certainly. But what Dan Snyder achieved as the owner of the Redskins and Commanders was truly one of the more horrific tenures in the history of professional sports. And the Cowboys benefited from that. So now it looks like you have an ownership group and a management group and a coaching staff that knows what they're doing, which is a real problem for the Cowboys. And I'm not saying that facetiously. I'm saying this, go look at the records. However bad the Cowboys were historically, at any point, the Redskins were worse, or Commanders. Well, that's off the table now. So when you sit there and say, well, where are they in the NFC East? Well, for 20 plus years, you could say, well, they'll be ahead of the Redskins. They'll be ahead of Washington, right? And it's only a 4-team division. So that makes it easier. And your first priority when the season starts is win your division. You can almost take those wins for granted. That's gone now. And that's going to make life harder because the Eagles are the Eagles, defending Super Bowl champions. They clearly have a terrific quarterback and a system in place that knows what they're doing. So that's a problem. The only one now that you would say they're kind of a mess are the Giants. And maybe they had a good draft. I mean, who knows? They've had such a hard time figuring out the quarterback position that when you say, would the Cowboys finish third? Yeah, I think that's a very realistic possibility. I mean, it wasn't like they were that good last season. The quarterback was hurt the entire time. But even when Dak Prescott was healthy, the team wasn't that good. So when you say, would they finish third? Yeah, I don't think that's the world's worst bet.
What's the plan for this offense this year? Because with them acquiring George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb, two of the best receivers, tandem in the league, but the running game really lacked a lot last year. Do you think they're going to be extremely pass happy, or do you think that they're going to go more to a balanced offense?
I think it's going to depend on what Jaden Blue does, the rookie running back they got out of Texas. The Ezekiel Elliott addition last season was such a dumb idea, and nobody wanted to do it other than Jerry Jones. He thought he could get him on the cheap, and he would come back and provide veteran leadership and all that BS. And it was a dud. He had nothing. He was just nothing left. But they did add, and the tight end position was bad. The offensive line was bad. And really, it was just CeeDee Lamb. And then Dak Prescott got hurt, and the season was just a mess. And then now you go in and add George Pickens. And if you look at it in defense of George Pickens, which is not easy, he's not had a good, stable quarterback throwing to him since he was drafted out of Georgia and went to the Steelers. And, look, the Steelers have been good for a long, long time, but they're obviously in a transition area now because they can't figure out the quarterback position. And Pickens, I know you guys watched it. Pickens would provide some catches sometimes. You're like, oh my God, how did he do that? But he obviously there's some maturity issues. There's a hothead. And, he's playing for a contract now. So you would think if you're ever going to get a guy at his best behavior and performing at his best, it's right now. Well, he's a bit of a hothead. CeeDee Lamb can be a bit of a hothead, really talented guy, but he got his money. And now the only way this really works is if Dak Prescott is healthy and continues to do what he's done in his time as the Cowboys quarterback, which is he has had complete command of that room the way a quarterback should and the way you want a quarterback to have. Everybody in that room respects him. I saw it. The Cowboys had two press conferences this year for offensive linemen who retired, Zach Martin and Tyron Smith. Tyron came back, signed a one-day contract to retire as a Cowboy, and both of them went out of their way to mention Dak Prescott and how much they respected him. And they're two of so many. And if you have that kind of command, the way Dak does of that room, then I think it can be okay. Then I think this Pickens-Prescott thing and Pickens-Lamb-Prescott thing can be okay. But the line's got to get a little bit better. They've got to get some help from their running game. And then the other thing, too, is they've got a guy who's a coach for the first time in his life, a head coach for the first time in his life. What does he do when it goes bad? Jason Garrett never lost that room, and neither did Mike McCarthy. Wade Phillips did. I was there for that. And I don't know how this is going to go for Brian Schottenheimer.
Mac Angle.
These are all wild cards.
Yeah. Mac Angle joining us today. Find him at Mac Angle Prof on X. He's a columnist for the Fort Worth Star Telegram, also the author of 4 books. Mac, you talk about Dak Prescott and the control he has over the locker room, and that's great. But unfortunately, Dak Prescott's kind of become the poster child for the quarterback that you don't want to have in the NFL. The quarterback that's good enough to put up a ton of stats, get you to the postseason, but not the quarterback that's good enough to get you to a Super Bowl. Do you think Dallas Cowboys fans are ready for a change at that position, or are they fine riding with Dak?
No, I think there's a lot. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's the problem, right? He's really good. And if you go back and look at the playoff losses that they've had with him, he has had large segments of the game where he's been bad. Team falls behind, they get their ass kicked, and then when the team's trailing by 3 touchdowns, he puts up monster numbers. Who cares? Too late. And I've seen all of them, and everything you just said is correct. And I do think there is a growing segment of the Cowboys population that says we got to move on and find somebody else. Well, who's that guy? Because talking about George Pickens' old team, would you rather be from a quarterback position? I'll ask you guys this. Would you rather be in Pittsburgh position where you're just throwing darts and hope one of them works? Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, Kenny Pickett, or would you rather have Dak Prescott?
Yeah, Dak Prescott. I mean, unfortunately, my team, the 49ers, are in the same position right now where I'm happy with Brock Purdy, but I don't know if I'm happy enough. I don't know if Brock Purdy's the guy
and that's the problem. Brock Purdy was one. You could make an argument. Brock Purdy's life and the 49ers changed completely if that bomb pass in the fourth quarter that he threw against Kansas City in the Super Bowl is a yard shorter and it's a touchdown pass.
Yeah.
They might have beat the Chiefs. We're having a totally different conversation about Brock and the 49ers as a result, but we're not. And with Dak's never been in that game. He's never been in an NFC title game. So I think look, they gave him a monster contract. He's not going anywhere for 2 more years. They absolutely love him. But I do think it comes down to, okay, dude, you're great. We love you. And there's nothing about this team that says they're going to be anything better than a divisional round loss. And I think that's best case scenario.
Mac, I appreciate the hell out of you, man. Hope to check in with you before the NFL season gets going. I think we're 56 days away, which is not soon enough. So enjoy Frisco, my friend.
All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
All right. Mac Angle. You can find him online at Mac Angle Prof. You can also check out his work at the Fort Worth Star Telegram. Sammy, we're going to take our final break of the day here. When we come back, we're going to kind of close this thing up with a little top 5 list. I like this new thing we're doing. And we got some texts that I got to get to about last night's Love Island episode. All that coming up next. San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app. For a final time here today on San Diego Sports 760, it's Ben Fletcher and Sammy Long. And don't forget, we got 13 chances every day for you to win $1,000. Listen for the keyword, then enter it at sportssd.com. Your next chance to win $1,000 coming up at 2:00 right here on San Diego Sports 760. Right before John and Jim take over the airwaves, your shot to win $1,000 coming up in just a couple seconds. Sammy, we kind of ran out of time here on today's show, but I don't know if you. What's up?
So we were talking yesterday. You ended the show on something crazy about how you and Kendall go into movie theaters, but don't actually go to a movie. You just go and get popcorn, which I think is wild. And then you had guys' night last night for the first time. What did we get into?
Guys' night meaning just me and my dog chilling by myself at home because my wife's on a trip out in Wisconsin. Let's see. Yes, the popcorn thing I'll address first. I don't think that's crazy at all. I think that's a life hack. And we do it probably once every 2 weeks. We go, and if you go to an AMC theater and you just walk in and say, hey, I want a large popcorn, they'll give you the large popcorn and the free refill that comes with it. And you could just walk right back out the doors.
Okay. I got one question for you guys to the other part. How do you transport the popcorn without it spilling all over your car? You're just walking out like in AMC Mission Valley, just through the mall with popcorn?
Well, by the time I get back to the car, I've already eaten a little bit of it, so it's not overflowing anymore. I don't think that's that crazy, and I don't think I'm the only person that does it either. You could literally get popcorn on DoorDash from AMC. Not saying I have, but you could.
Why don't you just pop it at home where it's hot?
Because movie theater popcorn's better. Our microwave's not big enough. The bag always gets stuck when it's rotating around.
Do you see what you just said there? Movie theater popcorn is meant to be eaten at the movies.
Movie theater popcorn is just like my favorite snack in the world. So I'll do that probably once every 2 weeks. I might do that tonight if I'm being completely honest. But secondly, if we're talking house to yourself, a little shameful here, but I had maybe the most embarrassing dinner I've ever had last night because I didn't want to go out and get food. So I just opened up the pantry and saw what we had at home. And it wasn't much because we just got back from vacation. I haven't gone grocery shopping yet. My wife's out of town, so I'm only cooking for me. So I don't really care if it's good or not. I just care that it's sustenance. So I opened up the pantry and I had pasta and I had Spam. So I made pasta.
Ew.
With Spam. I cubed up the Spam and fried it in some butter. And honestly, it was tasty, but it's a little embarrassing.
Okay, first off, what happened to the diet?
Yeah, we're not worried about that right now.
And number two, first off, why do you even have Spam, number one?
I think it was from a camping trip that we took a couple years ago, and it's just been sitting in my pantry, and last night felt like the night to do it.
Dude, if you're going to eat bad, go get something good.
You don't like Spam Masubi? I love Spam Masubi.
No, I can't even watch people eat Spam.
What are you talking? Like Spam Masubi? Like at a poke place, you get the piece of Spam and then rice and seaweed wrap?
Absolutely not.
I think you need to culture yourself a little bit more, Sammy.
No, I'm interested in eating real food.
Spam and eggs? I had that all through college. I love Spam and eggs.
What? We got to work with a dietitian or something.
I think you need to go to Hawaii one time or maybe Japan. Oh, it's Jim's here. What's up, Jim?
If you've never had Masubi, you haven't lived.
Spam Masubi is
Jim, hold on.
legit.
What the hell are you talking about? I don't even know what Masubi is.
I don't think Jim can hear you. He said he doesn't know what Masubi is.
I heard him. Yeah, well, go to Hawaii, get out a little bit, and try some Spam Masubi. You're welcome.
Jim, what are you doing on your show today?
Talking about the Padres.
Another 1-0 win. That's 5 of them.
Yeah, it's not as it's not as exciting as you think. It's a little concerning. I'll tell you why coming up on the show.
Oh, you can hear the bustling excitement in Jim Russell's voice. Oh, he's so excited. This text that we got from the 619, 4 straight hours of Jim. I might as well just listen to a crying baby on a loop for 4 hours. That's coming up next. Jim Russell here in San Diego on San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app.